What tragic secrets did legendary comedian Don Knotts leave behind? His life was characterized by complex personal tragedy, laughter, and famous roles. Relationships, and a farewell that even his most devoted followers were taken aback by. And the story of Don Knotts is far more complicated than most people realize. Let's look into his abandoned home and the riches he left behind. Examine his family, his legacy, and the traumatic events that molded his remarkable career. Into the entertainment scene of the 1960s was dynamic and rapidly changing, with few television performers were as well liked as Don Knotts, who won an Emmy for playing the deputy Barney Fife's charming but awkward appearance on the Andy Griffith Show. Knotts turned into a commonplace in American homes, and a popular comedian of his era. Throughout his rising stardom, he sought solace from the limelight in a quaint colonial restored house tucked away in the peaceful suburb of Glendale, California. Is renowned for its avenues lined with trees. Located close to the center of Hollywood and featuring a range of architectural styles, the 1934 construction, the home displayed the classic symmetry and elegance of the colonial revival design, which was particularly well liked in Southern California during the early 1900s. The house is 3,213 square feet, provided a roomy yet practical area, that it has 3 roomy bedrooms and a balance between grandeur and comfort. With 3.25 and 25 bathrooms, it's ideal for both informal and private living. Even though it just has a few bedrooms by today's celebrity standards, the house included well-considered architectural elements that reflected a time of cautious. The wood was one of the most notable elements of the exquisite craftsmanship and subtle luxury. The living room's beam ceiling was a feature that gave the otherwise formal design some coziness and a dash of rustic appeal. The dining room's coffered ceilings enhanced the area and gave it a refined, classic feel. Refinement that makes a decorated fireplace ideal for entertaining or having private meals with close friends. Acted as a natural focal point for the main living space, reflecting the ease and minimalism that made Knott so a sympathetic character on TV. The den is a comfortable haven inside the house. Provided direct access to the backyard, a feature that would have enabled both interior and outdoor living. But inviting that it's simple to picture not being exposed to the California sun. Maybe lounging by the pool on a calm afternoon or spending time with loved ones in the lovely backyard, which was landscaped, was a private haven. Featuring a dazzling pool that served as a pleasant diversion from the rigors of his well-known job, while the kitchen was tastefully updated to fit modern standards. But the house still had a lot of its original charm. Requirements while maintaining the historical charm of the house. The refurbishment included custom-made cabinetry. Caesar stone countertops are renowned for their strength and elegant design, and premium Viking and Sub-Zero appliances. These improvements made the kitchen a gourmet workstation for cooking or just taking pleasure in the daily custom of cooking in a fashionable manner and comfort. Over the years, the house remained appealing as a component of historic buildings and a coveted location in the greater Los Angeles area region. In 2003 for $600,000, demonstrating the consistent demand for it. Considering Glendale's well-maintained historic residences, by the time it was classified for when it was sold again in 2013, its value had more than doubled, reaching $1.295 on the market. This increase of $295 million not only mirrored general Southern trends, California real estate market, as well as the timeless allure of residences with intricate histories and sound architectural design being owned by Don Knotts, gives this house which is well known for his private residences, a touch of Hollywood history. Knott's modest off-screen persona probably took comfort in the house's classic style and peaceful surroundings. His Glendale getaway provided a sense of groundedness in contrast to the bright lights and fast-paced world of television. A perfect haven for one of America's most well-known comedians in the later in his extraordinary life and career, Don Knotts, a well-liked actor and comedian most known for his legendary parts in Three's Company and The Andy Griffith Show, and a number of endearing comedies, found comfort and consolation in the address of the Beverly Hills condominium is 1854 South Beverly Glen Boulevard. Apartment 402 is a roomy and elegantly designed during the last years of his life. The designated residence served as Kane's personal haven away from the spotlight. Acquired in August 1983 for the $338,170 condominium represents a time of change in Knott's life. Having already had decades of success in movies and television, purchasing this house signaled a greater in Phase 1, where he could live in peace and still be accessible to the entertainment sector and its social circles. The structure itself is situated in a lush and appealing area of Beverly Hills, provides seclusion while remaining close to the center of Los Angeles. The 3,289 square foot home is remarkably roomy, especially when compared to condominium standards. The house had 3 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms, so there was plenty of room for visits from family members or the occasional business meeting held within. The house boasts lofty ceilings that create an air of grandeur and openness, while letting in enough of natural light to make the spaces feel cozy and spacious. The condo's rooftop lounge space is one of its most notable features. Tranquil and picturesque area ideal for rest or peaceful reflection. From Knott's would have been able to take in expansive city views from this location, including the Los Angeles skyline, and it's simple to see the actor, who is recognized for his anxious, humorous energy on television, while taking in peaceful moments in the Southern California sun, and possibly sipping coffee in the morning or taking in the city lights at night. The building itself, albeit not very showy, has a modest style, appropriate for someone like Knott's, who despite his notoriety was renowned for being modest, quiet, and reticent in his private life. It offered a beautiful and safe living space with all the conveniences required, drew in people seeking a blend of convenience and comfort, and they stayed in this house all the last phase of his life, even though he kept acting periodically throughout these years, taking on guest roles, and this condo provided a tranquil sanctuary for voice practice well into the early 2000s. Despite the demands of his Hollywood friends and family, the home was comfortable, according to those who visited him at this period. Friendly and brimming with souvenirs honoring his lengthy and significant career following Knott's death in February 2006. In October 2007, the property briefly stayed with his estate. The property was marketed about a year and 8 months after his passing, and it was sold for $1.23 million. Reflecting the location's appeal as well as the rising value of real estate in Beverly Hills at the time. Although the condo sale signified the passing of a period, it also demonstrated how modest and inconspicuous Knott's way of life was. Stayed in 1854, even after decades of success in one of the most glitzy industries in the world. South Beverly Glen Boulevard remains intact, as does the apartment where Don used to live. Knott's has a silent history, and there might not be a public monument or plaque to indicate its well-known former occupant. People who are acquainted with his life and activities can understand the importance of this habitation, It functioned as a last haven as much as a physical home. A location where one of the most charming comedians in America may live in dignity and comfort. Don Knott was born in a room that mirrored his subtle charm, and Jesse Donald was born and reared in Morgantown, West Virginia, a tiny community tucked away in the Appalachian region. He was born on July 21, 1924, and was raised in impoverished conditions during the Great Depression. Will eventually influence his sense of humor and his strong, grounded personality. His boyhood home was situated. The Knott's boarding house was a huge residence located at 2147 University Avenue. The boarding home, run by his mother, gave the family a small but essential income because they were struggling financially. The residence was close to West Virginia University, which would subsequently contribute to the early creation of Knott's. Despite the challenges of growing up in a border-shared household and experiencing financial hardship, Knott managed to escape by creativity and acting. Even as a young child, he showed a natural talent for comedy, and Knott's early years were also characterized by his imitation, which amused his family and the tenants that lived in their house. Due to personal difficulties, William Jesse Knott, his father, suffered from mental illness and died when Dawn was his mother. Elsie was a stoic and powerful figure in his life even though he was only a teenager. Growing up in Morgantown, she endured difficult circumstances while raising her sons. Was challenging, but it helped shape the environment, the community, and his struggles all added to the subtle depth and sensitivity that highlighted his subsequent performances. In spite of the challenges he faced, Knott was a gifted student who frequently gave ventriloquisms and was well known for his quick wit and sense of humor, performing magic feats for classmates and friends, sowing the seeds of a passion for performing that will last a lifetime. During World War II, Knott briefly left Morgantown to serve in the U.S. Army, where he provided entertainment troops in a military variety show. Following his time in the military, he went back to his birthplace, where he studied for a degree in education with a speech minor at West Virginia University. Despite moving to New York for work, Knott remained close to his Morgantown origins throughout his life. York and then to Hollywood, he frequently talked positively about his childhood in West Virginia, which served as a foundation for. Despite his celebrity, he maintained an individuality that was essential to who he was. Acknowledgement of his enormous impact on American entertainment and his continued ties to his community, the city of Morgantown has made great efforts to commemorate Don Knott's legacy as one of Don Knott's Boulevard, a significant thoroughfare named in his honor, is the most noteworthy homage. In addition to recognizing his fame, the road's renaming is an act of homage, but also honors a young man from the area who did good and accepted the humor's humility and tenacity of his Appalachian childhood and transformed it into something that impacted millions of people, possibly even more. The life-size bronze statue of Don Knott in Don Knott is a moving piece of art. The statue is located at Memorial Park, close to the Morgantown History Museum. Sculpted by Jamie Lester and released in 2016, it depicts Knott in an iconic pose as the endearing yet foolish deputy he played on The Andy Griffith displays a characteristic display of apprehensive resolve. The persona that earned him 5 Emmy trophies and a spot into the Memorial Park provides a peaceful, contemplative area where nearby interpretive signage allows both locals and fans to honor one of Morgantown's most beloved native sons, and memorial plaques that provide information about Kayan's life and work his path from a humble West Virginian childhood to becoming one of the most well-known comedians in America. For Morgantown residents, actor Don Knott is more than just a well-known figure. He is a representation of tenacity, sincerity, and natural talent. Lifetale serves as motivation for budding actors and small-town idealists worldwide, as the city's endeavors to preserve and honor his legacy, showing not only pride in their own, but also a profound respect for Don Knott. The man who made others laugh had a private existence that frequently conflicted with the anxious and uncomfortable. Despite being known to millions of followers as the jittery, he played characters on screen. Those who knew Knott personally spoke about a more complicated and frequently unexpected person who had a romantic streak, a gentle charm, and an unexpectedly high level of favor with women. Al Checo, a longtime friend and fellow actor, once gave an insightful look at Knott's off-screen persona by saying, "The women adored Don, who was a bit of a ladies' man and thought he was like Frank Sinatra. Dated a lot, and this portrayal shows a man who, in spite of people were drawn to him, especially women, because of his charming charisma and humble appearance. Knott have a soft nature, a sardonic wit, and an indisputable fragility that enhanced his attractiveness has made him far more self-assured and prosperous in his private life than from his on-screen persona throughout his life. Many could infer Knott had 3 marriages, and each one represented a new phase in his life. His first marriage during the early years of his career, he married Catherine Knott in 1947. Career together, they had 2 kids, a daughter named Karen and a son named Thomas Knott. Karen Knott, who was born on April 2, 1954, would go on to following in her father's footsteps. She entered the entertainment business as an actor, writer, and comedian. In 1964, Knott's marriage to the Mets ended, and by then, his career had removed after his triumph on The Steve Allen Show, and more importantly, The Andy Griffith Show highlights the demands of celebrity, hard hours, and a career allegedly played a role in the dissolution of their marriage. Following their divorce, Knott adopted the unconventional and commendable position, particularly during the period when he was responsible for parenting his daughter Karen alone. Did not take lightly, and he was a loyal and affectionate man by all accounts. Knott married Laura Lee in 1974, 10 years after his first marriage ended. Chuckna's romance, like many others in Hollywood, had to deal with public scrutiny, examination, and personal transformation. They stayed together for almost 10 years until being divorced, and although little is known about the inner workings of their marriage, 1983 was a time of Knott's life while he was balancing television appearances, movie roles, and emerging health issues. Knott discovered enduring friendship in his third and last marriage to former actress Frances Yarborough, and in 2002, the administrative assistant and his spouse were married and were together till his. Yarborough, who was much younger at the time of his death in 2006, provided support, and as Knott's health deteriorated in his final years, she supported him through some of the most trying times in his life, providing security and company as Knott was dealing with a number of health problems, including his vision was affected by macular degeneration, and he struggled from hypochondria for the rest of his life, which led to, despite his achievements, Don Knott had persistent health concerns. Completely comfortable in the spotlight, those closest to him frequently praised his kind and reserved demeanor. Betty Lynn. "He was a very quiet person," says the actor who portrayed Thelma Le Barney Fay's sweetheart on The Andy Griffith Show. "Man very sweet, nothing like Barney Fay." Others shared this opinion in the industry that noticed the sincerity and genuineness of him despite his hesitant comedic personas. Perhaps the greatest way to describe it was for television writer Mark Evanier to call Knott the most adored individual in show business. With that degree of love was not only professional. It also included personal connections, compassion, humility, and lack of ego. Not only made him a pleasure to work with, but he also created a lasting impression on almost everyone he encountered. In an unexpected development long after his death was made public by actor Ron Howard, who portrayed in February, it was revealed that young Opie Taylor and Knott appeared on the Andy Griffith Show. He recently discovered in 2025 that the two were distant relatives, neither of whom had aware of their kinship ties throughout Knott's life. Howard has consistently praised Knott as his early television mentor and father figure, expressed astonishment and joy at the finding. Knott died at the age of, adding even more serendipity to their already unique friendship. He passed away at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center on February 24, 2006, at the age of 81. The cause of death was pulmonary, and numerous Hollywood celebrities passed away in Los Angeles. And respiratory issues brought on by pneumonia, which was linked to lung in the months preceding his passing. Knott had been subtly dealing with cancer therapy for his illness while battling his deteriorating health in privacy and dignity, which is a reflection of his genuinely despite his alleged ailment. Knott's personal nature. Off-screen friends and relatives anticipated he would recover during his periods of progress, and he even came home from the hospital for he felt better for a short while. But his condition quickly deteriorated once more, and he went back to Cedars-Sinai, where he eventually died, signaling the end of a unique life, one that had significantly influenced American television and comedy. After his dawn, Knott was buried at Westwood Village Memorial Park Cemetery after passing away, a calm, revered resting area in Los Angeles that is also home to many. At the time of his funeral, various well-known personalities from television and movies. His grave was commemorated by a simple granite monument that reflected his calm grace and humility throughout his life. Although many celebrities in Hollywood are honored with opulent graves or ornate monuments, Knott's original, for someone whose work had impacted so many lives. The headstone was straightforward, almost unassuming, but that modesty will not endure indefinitely, acknowledging the extent of his contributions to entertainment enthusiasts. And in early 2011, enthusiasts believed Knott's burial needed a more appropriate remembrance. Got a major upgrade, a gorgeously carved bronze plaque